To some, this is peak Street Fighter and peak fighting games. To others, this is the most snore-inducing gameplay they've ever seen. And today I'm going to talk about it. Mirror matches occur when both Player 1 and Player 2 are using the exact same character. I can't help but feel like a mirror match is generally a pretty innocuous thing, but I've been thinking about them a lot for varying reasons and it got me wanting to talk about it. It's kind of hard to get a general idea of what the greater FGC thinks of mirror matches as a whole, but I wanted to discuss it and why people might like or dislike them. This idea, for me, starts all the way back in August of 2023. EVO has just concluded and it's very successful. Street Fighter 6 made its debut and shattered records, new games were revealed like Under Night In-Birth 2, people got to play Project L, no I'm not calling it 2XKO, for the first time, pretty good stuff. However, the event attracted some controversy, namely in regards to the grand finals for the main stage games. Out of the 8 games featured as main games at EVO 2023, 6 of them had their grand final sets end up being mirror matches. Roa vs. Roa in Melty Blood type Lumina, Kunimitsu vs. Kunimitsu in Tekken 7, Fujin vs. Fujin in MK11, Zero May Cry vs. Zero May Cry in Marvel 3, Gogeta Vegito in 17 vs. Gogeta Vegito in 17 in DBFZ. The only slight exception was KOF 15. Both Xiaohai and ET used Cronin and Isla on their team, but 2 out of 3 is still pretty egregious for most people. The only complete exceptions to this were Street Fighter 6 and Guilty Gear. That one was only controversial because Leffen ended up winning. EVO Japan, which concluded last weekend, had the same thing happen, albeit on a smaller scale with Third Strike, Uni 2, and KOF 15 again. So, I understand that this is quite an extreme occurrence, but the general response, mostly being negative, was interesting to me. I get that some of the annoyance came from the sheer volume, but it was really the first time I've ever seen such major vitriol shown towards mirror matches. In this video I want to discuss what I think the strong and weak points of mirror matches are, but first I think it's important we answer a question that pretty much always follows any mirror match discussion. Are all mirror matches even? In lots of different matchup charts for lots of characters and lots of games, you'll see people rank the mirror as 5-5, which is theoretically a completely even matchup, and it makes sense at first glance, right? If the matchup is between two completely identical characters who have access to the exact same kit, then they ideally can handle any situation that they can put themselves into, and since that applies on both fronts, the matchup is even. However, you can definitely find people who will vehemently argue for the complete opposite viewpoint. I've seen people meme on this old Giuna thread where he argues against all mirrors being even, specifically in the case of BlazBlue Continuum Shift. Now I can understand some of the arguments here, but overall it always sort of just confused me. If a character's mirror match is considered a 6-4, who is it in favor of? I can get a character having to use certain tools differently in their mirror match, but if that's the case, then in my head, that would apply to both characters, which would bring it back to being even. Player skill is one factor, but most if not all matchup charts I've seen are made with the assumption that the two people playing the characters are of equal skill. I'm sure there's more to that argument I don't get, but there are definitely examples of how mirror matches can change across different games. In Garo Mark of the Wolves, the TOP system allows you to become powered up upon reaching a portion of your health. You can allocate this buff to either the start, middle, or end of your health bar, and most characters become much stronger in TOP, so you'll usually see players set TOP to the very beginning to take advantage of the increased damage and meter build as soon as possible. If a Kevin mirror match between one player who's using start of round TOP and one who's using end of round TOP is happening, is it still even? After all, the start of round TOP Kevin is given instant access to tools the other doesn't have. In Street Fighter 3, 4, and 5, characters have different super arts, ultras, and V triggers and skills which can change the way they play, often in drastic ways. Do we still consider Ryu with Shinku Hadouken 5-5 against Ryu with Denjin Hadouken? There's also various games with Player 1 or Player 2 advantage, which is another can of worms. Definitely the most pertinent answer to this question is that it varies heavily, not just amongst characters but players too. Even matchup charts themselves are obviously only true to the players who agree with them. Whether or not you think all mirror matches are 5-5 or not is simply up to player opinion. That said, I just wanted to get it out of the way before we get into the damn thing the video is titled after. So, are mirror matches lame? Are they hype? Why do people like or dislike them? I think there are lots of things to love and hate when the same character is fighting him or her or themselves, so like any good YouTuber, let's start with the positives. First up, they allow us to observe differences in how a character can be played. Seeing two players use the same character against each other can often let us see not only how different the two players play, but also how a character can be handled differently by two different people. One of my favorite examples was seeing Paladin and Ending Walker, two top Ryu players in Street Fighter 6, play for the first time. In this mirror, we got to observe the different ways they utilize Ryu's tools. Some of them are more pronounced, such as the way they handle themselves on offense. Ending Walker is a more explosive player, while Paladin tends to move at a slower pace. The more subtle moments of this mirror, like how they manage drive gauge, their defensive choices, whether they go for a traditional pressure or decide to do a Denjin charge. You don't need to watch these two players play each other for any of this, but I think it certainly helps. Being able to see how two different players use the same kit in different ways is really cool. Another major benefit of mirror matches is the potential of getting to learn new things about your character. This one is more of a personal thing, but I still think it applies. I recall when I was learning Skullgirls in 2022, I encountered this one player on Quick Play who switched to my team after a few games. I lost most of the games we played, but the experience helped me get a better handle of using my team. I've experienced the same thing in games like Uni 2, and it's always really cool to be able to learn more about your character not just from watching, but also playing the mirror. The final strong point about mirrors, and one that really vibes with me, is that they put an emphasis on player skill. Having to play a bad matchup or one you don't have any experience with is always an easy excuse for why you lose, but against the mirror? Well, you're fighting the character you're playing. Sure, that doesn't always translate to knowing everything about the matchup, but it's hard to make excuses when you lose to the one character you spent the most time on. It can be a way to eliminate any other factors and evaluate the skill of a player in its purest form. That's the least dorky way I could find to phrase it anyway. So, the bad. Why do mirrors suck absolute balls to play or watch sometimes? A few reasons, actually. A big one is how limiting it can feel to have to watch the same character fight themselves. Fighting games have so many crazy and unique characters with different tools, game plans, and win cons. Seeing the same character fight themselves kind of wipes that all away, which can be pretty lame. This is especially evident in team games, a category 3 of the EVO 2023 games whose grand finals where mirrors fall under. Marvel 3 has one of the most fascinating metas, and it can often feel like any team is capable of winning if the player wants to put in work. I think a big part of the magic of the Winter Brawl X Grand Finals set between Kane Blue River and Filipino Champ isn't just the two players' differing personalities, but also their teams. A team that fits into many players' perception of the meta as well as F-Champs getting pieced up by 3 big bodies is just hype as fuck, no two ways around it. So seeing all this get wiped away when both grand finalists ended up using the same team, which has been so prominent at the highest level in Marvel 3 for so long, was understandably disappointing for a lot of people. I also think this is highly evident nowadays when we have so many games where the strongest mechanics are often universal amongst the cast. 6-6L and Grand Blue, Super Dash and DBFZ, Drive Rush and SF6. So oftentimes, not only will you be seeing the same characters play, but they'll often play in a fashion that doesn't make use of their unique tools, which can get pretty boring. Another boon of mirror matches is just how awful it can feel to play against your own character's gimmicks. If you're the kind of player who likes to indulge your degenerate side when you pick a main, playing the mirror can fucking blow. I feel this as a Sasquatch player in Vampire Savior, and a Nanase player in Under Night In-Birth. I love playing these two characters with all my heart, but holy fuck is actually fighting them a chore. I guess you can call that karma. On the same note, it also really sucks losing to your own character, because it just makes you definitively feel like the inferior player. Finally, just from a visual standpoint, they're pretty uninteresting. Seeing the same character animations, voice clips, and moves twice over in one game or set can be very boring. Believe me, when you play a mirror match in Street Fighter 6 or Grand Blue or God forbid DNF Duel, and you have to watch your character's long-ass super animations twice as much as you normally would, that can get very irritating. To end things off, I want to talk about what I learned from my audience. So about a week ago, I put up a poll in my community page trying to gauge what my audience's opinions on mirror matches is. Obviously 1,200 votes and 52 comments doesn't account for the entire FGC, nor even my community, but I did get a lot of insight from it. As far as the actual poll results, the most popular choice ended up being the middle, no strong feelings. Generally, the consensus in the comments for most people, it seemed, was that it depended on the character, which I can definitely understand. I'm surprised to see how many people cited grappler mirror matches as their favorites, but I guess I can understand. If a character is hyped to watch as a base, the chances are that watching 2 of them will also be entertaining. I do agree that certain characters' mirror matches can be insanely fun to watch and play. Even though I mentioned Sasquatch and VSAB earlier as a mirror match that isn't pleasant, and it can be pretty fucked up, I have a few friends that also play Sass, and I always enjoy playing the mirror match against them. In many ways, it can come down to skill level as well as character choice. On the other hand, I can definitely think of some mirrors that are just beyond miserable to watch and play. I also think the frequency at which they occur during tournaments can factor into people's opinions as well. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. Personally, I like mirror matches a lot, but how about you guys? Let me know if you enjoy mirror matches or not, and what some of your favorite or least favorite mirror matches are. Thank you for watching, have a great night, and take care. Hey guys, this is the part of the video where I do my channel member shoutouts. The hugest of thanks go to Old Man Han, Triangle God, Cammy the Killer, Jazba, Mortis, and Isaac Clork. you'd like to become a channel member, there'll be a link in the description. It's $2.99 USD, and you get a shout out at the end of the video. Sorry this is a bit of a shorter one, but it's just something quick I wanted to get out there before the end of the month. Thank you for the support, and I hope I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.